I should be writing number 473 for Friday, January 10th, 2020.
Well, I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.
Hi there, welcome to I Should Be Writing, the podcast for wannabe fiction writers. I'm your host, Mur Lafferty, and I'm in my new setup, which is still incredibly messy, but I'm trying the standing desk again. And I love how the people who talk about how sitting's killing us and standing's awesome, they never seem to talk to, people who work service jobs or retail or something who are on their feet all day, and how I don't see them being incredibly more healthy than the rest of us. They just have different problems. But my office chair is giving me some pain, and so I figured I would try the standing desk again. It's working well, she says, after using it for exactly 2 hours. I want to apologize for yesterday. I realized that when I unplug my laptop from my mic and then I plug everything back in, when I launch my recording program, it defaults to the interior, the Mac microphone, not my good microphone, which is why I've had a couple of issues. So now that I know why it's happening, I hopefully will catch it before it happens again. Sorry about the quality yesterday. I just finished a book, and it was a thriller. It was psychological. It was fun. It wasn't the best thing I've ever read, but it was definitely compelling and kept me reading. And I liked it, but it kept making me think about something, and that's a very basic rule that I don't think everybody thinks about. They certainly didn't think about it in Tolkien's time. And I think they're still not thinking about it. I'm notorious to myself anyway, bad at naming characters. I'm awful at it. I can't think past like a handful of names, and I always have to look up a name generator or baby names, and then I end up going through, maybe I want the name to mean something, and so I go through baby name meanings, and then 3 hours have passed that I haven't even written. But I do know that alliteration in character names, in different character names, is not the best thing. How Tolkien got away with two bad guys named Sauron and Saruman, I'll never know. I mean, people get away with naming people the same first letter all the time, but that was just like, I read Lord of the Rings late. I read The Hobbit when I was a teenager, as was required in the 80s, and it just didn't hit with me. Could have been the lack of female characters, I don't know. It just did not do it for me. I didn't really get into fantasy until I read worlds that dared to dream that women actually were in the world. But, so I never read Lord of the Rings. And so then when the movie started to come out, almost 20 years ago, I decided to read them. And I had a newborn at the time, and things were chaotic, and I kept being confused about this one guy who was listed as being over here doing bad things, and this other guy, and then I realized they were different with extraordinarily similar names. And I thought, how the hell did he get away with that? Maybe they didn't care about it then. I don't know. And so I recently read a book, 5 main characters. 2 women and a man had names that start with S. And at the beginning of a book, when you don't really have a sense of who people are yet, it's that's hard to keep up with. And it seems like such a simple thing, but you might save your readers a good deal of confusion, or even just slight irritation, if you go through and you make sure that your character names aren't similar to each other. And of course there are exceptions. If you want to have cute twin names that rhyme or are alliterative, or point out that a couple has a cute name. I once knew a couple named Carl and Carla. But overall, if there's not a good reason, you can save some confusion, really. The book I read was The Escape Room by Megan Golden. It was a psychological thriller. It was fun. The concept was interesting. It had the present day story, which is 4 co-workers in an elevator that is an escape room. It's a real elevator. It's not just a built elevator. And then on alternate chapters, there's a story about a woman trying to make her way in investment banking. And the problem here is that one of the women in the elevator, her name starts with S, and then the woman in the alternate chapters, and her name starts with S. And in the early chapters, I couldn't remember if they were the same person or not. And then I realized they weren't. And their names aren't that similar. It's just, you're reading a book or you're listening to it, and certain things just don't get cemented until you get further along in the story. So I had a little bit of confusion at the beginning, but overall, it's a good story. It's the elevator scenes were more immediate and interesting, while the investment banking scenes were a little repetitive. But I don't know why I'm giving you a book review, but if you like psychological thrillers, I recommend this one. It's fun. But yeah, had trouble with the character names, which is really the point I'm trying to make. Little details can help make your book stronger, and people may not even know on the surface why, but it's there. It's true. Trust me. I stress about names a lot. I just recently changed one of my characters' names. I tried to make his name old and biblical, but it didn't really work for me. Now I'm getting off on tangents. Names are difficult and interesting, and check your work in progress. See if it's easier to read if you maybe change some of your names around. And if it's not, then ask yourself if there's a reason why. There may very well be. I'm getting ready for the weekend, which will have a lot of board gaming and hopefully writing, because I am behind, as usual. I can't wait till I tell you guys I am caught up and on track with my project. Someday it'll happen. Anyway, you know me, mightymur@gmail.com, murverse.com, and mightymur on Twitter, mightymur2 on Instagram, when I think to take a picture and put it up there. Sometimes. Anyway, I will see you next week. I hope you have a great weekend, and you should be writing. Remember, you can support the show at patreon.com/mightymur. I should be writing theme music provided by John Anelio. You can find more about him at johnanelio.com. This podcast is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license.